where I went wrong. To say I just won't rock the boat. The boat needs to be rocked.
It's time. It's really time.
Rocked.
It's
Yeah.
time to just start saying what we feel because we have too many. We have world leaders. We have people that I know on my Facebook. I have best friends that are top engineers, top doctors, lawyers. That when things happen like this, I feel like honestly, when I say stuff, when I post stuff, when I think about stuff, I'm like, am I the only one that's like upset about this like thing? Like, and I'm like, you put yourself out there, and I get it. We can definitely get taken out of it, but we need to start speaking out, saying this is not right, and supporting each other. And I told even I'll tell you an example. I
Mhm.
remember when Kanye West was tripping, right? I was like, you know what? I ain't about to say nothing bad about Kanye because Kanye is my brother. And I couldn't. As much as I hated what he was saying, as much as I disliked him putting on the red hat, as much as I didn't like, I said, this is a brother. I know where he's coming from. He's in the same pain field as I'm in. He might have more money or my more situation, but I understand. We have to work together here in order to figure out what's going out there. If we started to say, like I saw a video with the Black Panther standing outside of the house with the kids. That's the show. You know what I'm saying? We got to really, 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 really plot now. We have the road to equity. We have the school to prison pipeline. We have different things that we can do. And every time somebody says, like Andrew was saying, there might not be a solution. The only solution I can think of is education. We have a lot of dumb people that are graduating from our high schools in the United States of America. And I think Andrea can attest to that. I know Karen can say that. We have a lot of people that shouldn't be graduating, but we put them out there and they think they go out into the world, they go out into things, and they have completely ignorant views of the world. And it's because of the miseducation that we're doing in our schools too as well. That's a whole nother topic.
No, but I'm glad that you said that, Harrison, because here's the thing, like, can you really change an adult really at this point? In fact, my sweetheart and I have conversations about this regularly about, the flaws that I have and the flaws that he has. Some of those flaws are deeply rooted and they've been flaws for, I'm now 37. They've been flaws for 37 years. And no matter how much he talks about it to me and his 32-year flaws, no matter how much I talk about it to him, you cannot change those things because they're a part of who we are, right? So with that being said, if someone has been the way they've been all their life, I don't care how much you talk about it. I don't care how many times we protest it. If it's down there and it's a part of their character, you will never change them. And like I told my sweetheart, and we may change for a couple of days. We may do well for 3 or 4 days because we know how to take out the script and we know how to act and play along. But guess what? I don't care how long you play a role, sooner or later, you're going to come back to what's familiar. You're going to come back to who you are. So you may be, if I were white and I didn't like black people, but I'm in a room full of black people, I know how to play my cards and act a certain way. But then when I leave out of there, me being around those black people and playing nice, when I go outside of those doors, I'm not around them anymore. Did it change that I still don't like black people deep down? No, I just knew how to play a role. So I said all that to say this: you can't change adults. So what you said, Harrison, is very important. I think the change is going to have to start at the education level. Why? Because every human being who is born has to go through the education system. It's a law that every child has to go to school. So what needs to happen is in our schools, we need to not only start teaching equity, which is what we as a team are pushing. We need to start pushing that because every child will get that lesson. And if we push it and we require it as they're coming through our education system, I would venture to say that if they learn it in pre-K and they hear it year after year after year, all the way till they graduate, that is at least 12, 13 years worth of hearing the same thing. And what do you think will probably happen? It will probably stick. And then you don't have a racist adult to change at 30 years old. Because you taught them that racism wasn't okay when they were pre-K, kindergarten, first grade. They heard it over and over. But here's what's happening. This is why the system is failing. We allow students to bully one another. We put Band-Aids on it and say, oh, well, yeah, it's okay because of this and it's okay because of that. So then little Timmy gets off bullying somebody who he was really bullying because they're poor, but he's rich. And he's been bullying him because he didn't have what he has. And we said, well, it's okay. We're just going to let you off with a parent conference this time. Timmy comes back and does it again. Well, it's okay. Don't worry about it. We'll just suspend you. We just keep doing all these little Timmy never changes. Why? Because he was never forced to change. And somehow he saw a level of tolerance that we were able to embrace with his bad behavior, his racism, his bigotry, his hate, his discrimination. We allowed it to still flourish in our schools. And they do it every single day. We allow students and teachers, by the way, to act the way that they act against each other. And we don't do enough about it. And so then guess what? Let them keep doing that for 12 years. That's who they're going to be, and that's who they're going to always be. And then you can't change them. It's too late.
Bring back spankings. I remember it was in my school. Bring it back.
Yeah.
Well, you know who's going to get the spankings, though? The black kids. So that's another thing. Corporal punishment will be used disproportionately on African American and Hispanic children. That's
Just
why
like
I'm
everything
against
else.
it.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Harrison, not to cut you off. Just like the dress code, like you talked about last time. We use the dress code against people. We could be using the dress code against, it don't even have to be about color. But let's assume, yeah, I'm using dress code against somebody because I don't, sagging is not okay. And who sags a lot? Okay.
Right.
Or you know what? I'm going to use dress code against somebody because, I don't know. I've seen it at a school where the young lady, they were poor. She had to wear the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, to the point where her shirt became a little revealing. And they used dress code against her. We're going to send you home every day until you can change that shirt. The final response was, why don't you give her a shirt? Because she don't have one. And then it was like, whoa. You know what I'm saying?
How easy is that, though? How easy is that solution?
Right, but she was out of class. She was out of class on a
Right.
consistent basis because of dress code. Give her a shirt. If her shirt is really an
I've been-
issue, give her one.
And I've been in, like, not heated arguments, I don't argue, but I've been in so many situations where I've been, like, listening to someone tell me, but they don't follow the dress code, or they're not going this. I was like, duh. Like, they're constantly just trying to find, well, they don't need to be in class because this, that, and the other, blah, blah. I said, listen, they got clothes coming on the way. Do you not want the children to be in their class? Like the idea, yes, that teachers would utilize the dress code and corporal punishment, the school code of conduct to the detriment of a student is prevalent all over the country in schools that you wouldn't even imagine, even in the black schools per se. So with black teachers and black staff, and it's almost not even like a cultural thing. It's just more of a self thing, like our egos. People don't get it. People don't get, like, inside their mind, they don't see everyone as the same. And we have to, as a teacher, I think I said this the other day, as a teacher, you have to see all of your students as the same. You have to see everyone has to be identical. You can't see color. You can't see IQ level. You can't see anything different about all of your students because you need to treat them on a level plane. Now you can they can benefit from other things, but you have to see them all the same.
We need to open up our own school because we need more educators who are going to be unbiased, and they're going to leave their stuff at the door. They're going to leave their racism and all that. So
there's a guy
and have no racism at all, Danielle. I'm just kidding.
Let's open up a school. I'm ready.
I agree with you. I think we need to screen teachers better. If you want to know the truth, I think that they just hire any willy-nilly Joe Blow Blow off the street or anybody.
We know admin. We know administration that have said racial remarks about people at school, whether it's the kids or the students or the parents. But we know it happens, and it's like
we don't check them. You know,
incredible.
And hear people say some stuff. Nobody checks them. And that's where the checking needs to start, because then the kids see that. When I have kids that was coming up to me at this last school that I was at telling me stuff that other teachers were in the hallway whispering about, why are you in the hallway whispering in earshot of kids? Now those kids know so-and-so's business, so-and-so, they use it and they come and dude, that's not professional. Like, stop it. Like, I think it starts with the teachers, like you're saying, because why would that teacher want to write the class?
Yeah. And it's all about, too, not just the acknowledgement, but having these conversations. It's all about having and being authentic enough and brave enough and vulnerable to have a conversation instead of feeling like threatened or afraid, or I'm not going to address that with that person, you know, because they look too dramatic or angry or whatever it is. But we really have to stop when injustice happens. It's 2020. If you don't stand up, I am sorry. You can take the next boat, but baby, over here, we treat everybody the same. We love everybody. We are sharing stories. Okay. And it's not, and sometimes it is about racism, and we have to call a spade a spade. And if you don't, right, that's when growth doesn't happen, my friend. That's when we keep repeating the same cycle and the same narrative. All you have to do is insert Ahmaud Arbery's story into another person's story, into another. It's just on repeat. And all we're saying
stories.
Right. All we're saying
all should be talking about those stories.
Yes. And hear my pain. Don't diminish it, and don't say, you know, because we treat all our students the same, but in America, people see the color of our skin sometimes. And that was so profound. It was a black boy, and he had a target on his chest, and it was a cartoon, but it said, how can I take this birthmark off of me? How powerful and so sad at the same time that some people feel. And so schools, when you go to schools and that perpetuates that same narrative, my son is being broken down by educators who sometimes don't see their biases and that how it penetrates his core of his self. And I'm having to pick him up as a black man and say, and where as a kid is saying, why am I being treated differently? Why is so-and-so? And I'm having to have a conversation with the kid who didn't know race, but because it was brought to his attention in his school setting of his mistreatment. And it's my same story from when I was in high school. My kid's story is now becoming my own story. This is an issue. This is something we have to start really figuring out. How are we going to bring about change? We have to start talking. And just because you may disagree with me doesn't mean you have to devalue what I'm saying. Doesn't mean that my pain is less than just because you disagree with me. I'm telling you from my perspective as a black woman in America, a professional woman who has a degree, that I still have these same fears for my child. And all I'm asking for is other mothers, other people to hear the pain that the agony that I have that other people may not have to go through because my son looks the way that he looks.
Go ahead, Nia.
Oh, I was muted. I was just going to say that more people should be sharing the story about him, more cultures. Everybody should be talking about this because everybody has something to learn. There's a connection with everybody. We have to start having uncomfortable conversations. I'm going to pass it over to you.
Well, I just want to say, Danielle, you're absolutely right. And the thing about it is, it's like, I think Toya just said it. You just said it. Man, I just have such a heavy heart, but I have so much to say right now. I don't know if it's our president that needs to be talking. I think everybody in leadership needs to be talking about this, because like we're talking right now, but we may have 20 viewers on here right now. But I'll bet you any amount of money if Beyonce got on live right now and started talking, Cardi B got on live right now and started talking, President Trump, if he got on live right now and started talking, the millions of viewers who are going to watch and listen is countless. And so if they got on there and they use their voice, which is so impactful, they would have to be the ones to lead the conversation. You know, nothing irks me more than misappropriated leadership. Meaning you give leadership, you give the baton to somebody that's just going to squander it. And here you have 4 years of influence. You need to make sure that every time you open your mouth, you're changing lives for the better. Now, I can bring it down to our level. That's why every day as an educator, when I would go into my classroom, I always kept in mind, everything I say, like I was Michelle Obama, y'all. I was like, everything that I say is going to matter. It's either going to help them or it's going to hurt them. So that's why it was so profound when Karen wrote that in the book about deposits versus withdrawals. If all of us got that in our head, that every time we open our mouth, every time we do something, we're either going to add to somebody's life or we're going to take away from it. My problem with the Ahmaud situation is that someone decided that they had the right to make a permanent withdrawal from the life of someone else. I think when we start to determine the fact that our only jobs are to deposit, we don't have a right to take away from, we don't have a right to withdraw from an account that doesn't belong to us. We stop the stealing that we're doing. We do it emotionally. We do it financially. We do it politically. We're always taking and stealing and taking and stealing. What happened to using our words and our actions to give back? So if I were those two young men that set out in my pickup truck armed with guns, it wasn't like they just happened to have a gun laying there and then, oh my God, he got shot. No, they came out with the intention to harm and or kill because you had a gun in your hand. So if I were them and I had in my head, listen, yeah, I think that this guy was doing something that he shouldn't have been doing in my community. I have a feeling he just burglarized a home. I think it's my responsibility to go and address it. I can go and address it all day. But if I keep in the forefront of my mind that it's not my responsibility to take anything though, meaning it's not my responsibility. If I thought you were wrong, it's not my responsibility to play the police and take your life. That's a withdrawal. What can I come to the situation with to help it as opposed to hurting? And that's a deposit withdrawal scenario that I think if every American gets that in their head, we don't have the right to take away from anybody. Your job should either be to give or to do nothing at all, because taking is permanent, I feel. It can be very permanent and it can resonate and it can hurt like it's hurt in a lot of situations that pertain to us.
I agree 100%. Like, we need one thing a lot, you mentioned Beyonce, you mentioned
Cardi B.
several celebrity, Cardi B, and shout out to Cardi B because she gets on a lot of times and she'll say stuff like she works with Bernie Sanders. She, and people, she got on about the coronavirus, and she has a way of reaching people that aren't normally listening. So I appreciate her. But, a lot of things that we cripple ourselves with that doubt that, somebody ain't going to like what we got to say or we might lose the job. I literally, when I woke up in the morning and I saw the death and I saw this thing, like right now, Facebook blocking me from live. I couldn't, like, my mind, my heart, like, was just like, I gotta say something. I gotta say something. I gotta say, like, what what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? It's just constantly on my mind. I'm grateful for this platform to be able to talk about it, but it was something that was on my heart, and I was like, there has to be something that has to be said because this can't continue to go on. And I think one of the things that cripples people is the fear. They have a fear of the unknown. They have a fear of the things that people are going to judge them or say what they're going to do. And I'm going to tell you right now, it doesn't even matter no more. I'm telling you, if you hate me, you hate me. My life, my children, my children, my niece's life, your children's life, everybody's lives are at stake right now. You know what I mean? This is something that has been happening consistently since I was a child. I can't say that, it's something new, right, boy? If I was a white boy, I wouldn't be tripping if I got pulled over by the cops. When I get pulled over by the cops, I literally say, okay. Now breathe. Now they come and talk to me. How you doing, sir? How you doing? Blah, blah, blah. It was like, doing all okay. Excuse me, sir. Thank you, sir. I'm a principal. I try to put stuff in there that'll make them not kill me. And it's been going on for years. And we have to realize is that the monster that we're up against has been around 600 years. It's been around. It's been here. Slavery, racism, Jim Crow, segregation, all that stuff has been here. We just got back into schools. We just started getting education. Black folks just started getting money from a black woman.
medium because I don't want that burden of the fact that us Black women ate the apple. I just don't need that burden.
Okay, no, that's not
I'm just saying. I don't need that. Now you add extra. Now they gonna come after us. I ain't got time.
Well, that would explain why Adam made it. You better eat this apple.
Philosophical and religious on us.
I know.
On that note, it's about time for us to wrap up. But on this note, I just want to remind people and say for the longest time, I didn't speak up against racism. I didn't speak up against injustice, sometimes because it wasn't happening to me or people treated me fine. But I saw them even treat other people that look like me differently, that I was the exception to the rule, right? And so now that we're in a situation where we don't have time to sit around and act or, post a social media post without any action behind it. It is 2020 and it's time for us to figure out a way to do something to change the narrative and close the gap once and for all. Even if this is not going to be a solution overnight, like you said, if this is something that's been going on for years and centuries and long time, it's not going to be, and we're not arguing the origins, but we are saying that a gap exists, racism exists in America, privilege exists in America, these things, and if we become more aware of it, we can start to close that gap, because as COVID has currently, been in America, that gap is only just widening right now for many people. So on that note, we ask you and we challenge you to speak out against injustice where you see it, that the most powerful tool that we have in 2020 is sometimes this, okay? And that sometimes is to bring awareness to some of the things that we go through when people don't believe our stories or they devalue our experience. This sometimes is the most powerful tool in 2020, especially in the case with Ahmaud Arbery. So on that note, signing out. Thanks. It's Karen Gray. We've got Toya Engler, Danielle Guillory, Andrea, and Dr. Jones all saying bye. We'll see you next week on a Tuesday.